You're listening to Navid Moosa of The Mindset Movement. Good day, good people. My name is Navid Moosa. I'm your host today and always for The Mindset Movement. First-time listeners, we appreciate you checking us out. We hope you become long-time listeners. And long-time listeners, thanks for keep coming back for more and more. So, as stated a couple of times in the past episodes, yes, I'm a licensed real estate agent, and the podcast used to be called Becoming an Agent Tour, which now is involved to this mindset movement because of more and more people contacting me who are not real estate agents. They are investors, but they also have other jobs, W-2 jobs. Some are self-employed, and they're just asking for general advice about corporate structures or their company structures and best way to diversify the money that they're making now and investing it so their money works for them. Which brings us to basically for the month of April, we want to do a segment called like Business in a Box. The idea behind this segment is that for the whole month of April, we're going to talk about the foundation of any business. Anytime you start a business, no matter if it's any kind of plumber, electrician, trucking, consulting, whatever it may be, there's a foundation, right? You got to have some essentials, the basics of every single one. But before I dig in, I would like to say that this is not legal or financial advice. Do your own due diligence. Your own homework, talk to your accountant, and talk to your attorney how to make sure that you're properly protected. So having that disclosure out of the way, we're going to discuss several things every week for the month of April. Every week we're going to discuss a different topic. The topic for this week is going to be corporation setup, LLC versus S Corp, C Corp, so on and so forth. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard, you have your LLC, is your LLC set up, is this set up and whatnot. And LLC is, by definition, is limited liability company. That's what an LLC stands for. And that is probably the most common type that small business owners set up as an entity for themselves. And the reason why they do that, it kind of gives them a layer of protection. So here's a really quick way to put it. Let's just say, for example, Jane Smith is a landlord, and Jane Smith owns a couple of properties. Something happens on the property, a negligence, that causes the tenant to get hurt. The tenant decides to sue her landlord, which is Jane Smith. Jane gets sued, and the property is owned in Jane's own name, her actual name. So now the rental property is owned in Jane Smith's name, and her personal residence and her car and everything else that Jane owns that's in Jane's name is now subject to this potential lawsuit by the tenant. Because everything is owned in Jane's name, the lawsuit is directed toward Jane. So having said that, she's opened herself up to a liability of a basing of lawsuits. So how do we fix that, right? How do we get this corrected, or how do we minimize that? Minimize the liability. What Jane creates, I Rule the World LLC. So that's her LLC now, right? And the house, the rental property that Jane owns, is not owned by Jane Smith. It's owned by I Rule the World LLC. The negligence takes place, whether it be, known, unknown, whatever. There's a negligence, it takes place. The tenant decides to sue. The tenant isn't suing Jane. She's suing Jane's company, I Rule the World LLC. So when the tenant comes after Jane, she's only coming after what I Rule the World LLC owns, not after Jane's car, Jane's house, or anything else that Jane has in her name. And so that's the protection of being, whether it's a limited liability company or anything else, you're protected. You're giving yourself a cushion, if you will, where all the personal stuff you have in your own name, all the hard work that you put towards creating this business of yours, you've worked hard, you've done some savings, you took your savings and you invest into your own company, you've created this and established this, but you want to keep that stuff protected. And creating a company name and getting it, whether have an LLC or an S Corp, C Corp, having it developed and having it created creates that barrier of protection. So there's a website called Investopedia.com that I kind of go to for a lot. I don't get any compensation for it or anything like that, but just telling you guys. So I'm just, I'm on that actually right now. I have it right in front of me, and I'm going to just give a quick passage to you guys. So an LLC is a limited liability company, which is a type of legal entity that is used in forming a business. An LLC offers protection to the owner from personal liability from any of the debts that a business incurs. In other words, the personal assets of the owner cannot be used for legal claims against the business. LLCs are common since they provide the liability that's similar to a corporation, but they're easy to establish. An S corporation, on the other hand, is a type of corporation that meets specific guidelines by the IRS. An S corporation provides limited liability protection, but also offers corporations with 100 shareholders or fewer to be taxed as a partnership. So, and I just read that word for word off of investopedia.com just to give you guys an idea, an actual definition. But a lot of people, they struggle which way I want to do this and which is better. I can't tell you what's better, but I can definitely tell you and highly recommend that if you're doing business, if you are an independent contractor, you're getting direct payments, not as a W-2 employee, but if you're doing work for somebody and they're paying you directly, make sure that you have an LLC set up or some kind of corporate structure set up so that check or that direct pay or whatever goes to a corporation, not to you. You want to set up a business account. So let's back up here. When you have your idea created, you're like, okay, I want to go ahead and start doing this, selling these sprockets out to these people. Okay, you want to create your company first. You want to get your name out there, right? So create a company name. Think of a name that sells your vision. Think of the name that represents your brand or the reputation you want to have. Once you have that name, you can talk to an attorney if you'd like to, and you can go ahead and get it set up. You can say, hey, listen, I want to incorporate. I want to create an LLC. And the LLC's name is I Rule the World LLC. And then the attorney will sit with you, go with you. They will give you what's called an EIN, an employee identification number, also known as a tax ID. You get a tax ID. And then once that's all done and set up, once you have your tax ID, everything takes a while, right? Especially since COVID hit. What used to take like a week or two takes like 4 to 6 weeks now. There's a lot of people who say, well, I want to save money and do it myself. You can save money and you can go on LegalZoom. You can set it up that way if you like to. Nothing wrong with that. You can go to your state website here in PA. I think it's paopenforbusiness.org, and you can set up some stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I like to stay in my lane and I know what I do, especially when it comes to legal matters. So what I try to do is I have my attorney set up everything. So every time I create a company, I go to my attorney, I go to her and I say, hey, listen, here's the name, here's the address, and here's what we're going to be doing. And I basically let her run the show. She knows that stuff. She's excellent at that stuff. So I do recommend finding a local attorney. If you don't have one, go to some of maybe the Facebook groups you guys belong to, or some of the meetup apps that you belong to, the other investor groups, and people in your business, and just say, hey, do you have an attorney who set up your company? And maybe you can do a recommendation that way. And to me, it does cost a little bit extra, but it's well worth it because I know it's being handled. I know it's being done correctly. And so you want to have your LLC name established. You want to have a tax ID, and you want to have an operating agreement. And the operating agreement, what this does, you've probably heard the phrase articles of incorporation kind of a deal. Well, an operating agreement kind of tells the business structure who can do what. Now, as an LLC, which is usually one owner, it indicates that you're the 100% owner of the company and you can do whatever on the behalf of the company. Sometimes you'll have a partnership in LLC where two people, like husband and wife, for example, own the LLC, and you both are 50-50 owners if that's what you want to do. But you still need one managing partner. And the reason why is you got to have being that everything is 50-50, of ownership or profits, however you want to have it see fit, you want to make sure that you still have one person that, let's say one of you guys is traveling or one of you has a full-time job, or both of you have full-time jobs and you're both doing this endeavor together, but on the side, if you will. But you're selling something or requires documentation. The managing partner, that managing partner can show up on your behalf to sign these documents. So your operating agreement can help you with that. And I don't want to get too complex here, so I'm trying to keep it simple. But basically, get your name established, think of a name you want, register that name, get a tax ID for that name, and then also create an operating agreement. Once all those are done, you can go to a bank, open up a bank account with this information, with the tax ID and those items, and go ahead and get it taken care of. And now your bank account is open, your business bank account is open, and then you could fund it, with where your personal money or whatever. And again, talk to an accountant and they'll tell you the best way to structure that. And so that, to me, would be the starting of your corporation. It's in your head. Now we want to get it out and get out there right, make sure it's protected. So that's the first thing we want to do is get this set up for you. And again, you can go to LegalZoom, talk to local owners, see if they can refer an attorney to you, and we'll go from there. So that's what I have for you guys this week. Next week and rest of the month, like I said, it's called Business in a Box. We're going to talk about a bookkeeper versus an actual accountant, a CPA. We're going to talk about different types of insurances, not just for you as a company, but for you as a business owner, and some other good stuff here. So today we talked about LLCs versus corporations, and I really touched on LLCs more than anything because that is the hottest topic, the hottest branding of your company that's been out there, and it has been for years and will always be, I think, in my opinion. But if you don't want LLC, if you're not sure, talk talk to your accountant, talk to an attorney, find out the best setup, find out your goals, your business plan, and they will help you decide what they feel is the best way to go. But hey, be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with your business structure, be honest with how you want to run it and how you plan to run it. And if you have growth in your mind, like 5-10 years down the road, be honest with that and tell them, look, I want to grow to this. And they should tell you. A good one will tell you, these are the pros and these are the cons. Not one is perfect. One just may be better than the other for your current business structure. And maybe as you grow, you can change your filings to a different way, like making your LLC into an S corporation or C corporation down the road. That's possible. But again, this is not legal or financial advice. So talk to your attorney, talk to your accountant, talk to your people in your inner circle, and kind of get everything written down and find out what's the best way to go. So that's it for this week. Take care of yourselves, take care of everybody else. And like I say, in and every week, do right by the client and everything else will fall into place. I promise you that. Take care of yourselves. Be good.